Hello everyone, good evening. Today is November 20th. Welcome to another episode of Ripster Daily Trade Recaps and Daily Teachings. Before I start, guys, I just want to let everybody know I'm doing a big giveaway. Going to give a lot of charting platform access, option flow, subscription, and trading communities, memberships, new service tools, scanners. So I'm giving away thousands of dollars worth of stuff this week, but I want you guys to tell me why you need it, right? So if you want to participate, go on my Twitter. The link is up there, and let me know and join the giveaway. And by end of this week, midweek, I will announce the winners of each giveaway, and I will post a separate tweet about everything that I'm planning to give away. So just want to share that. Let's start with our video. So very bullish day in the market today, guys. It was very bullish today, and we didn't have a big huge watch list. I will show you the watch list in a minute. But what I want to talk about today is that our pre-market plan that you see here that I made. So our pre-market plan, I already knew there's a breakout on the SPX 4520 or 4452 area, which was breakout. Then QQQ was 1 hour tight range, and there was another level at 388. So just going through the notes, you were ready for the all day trend, and we were long all day on SPY QQQ. So that was big today on SPY QQQ, the planning, right? Similarly, Boeing, which was one of our watch list plays, it was a big gap up. We were watching pullbacks to long to the clouds. On the news, it was an upgrade. 212 was the pivot, and just it kept running, breaking that pivot. So you can screenshot these levels and go back and do your homework and see how these levels work. This is the must. These levels can change, the pivots can change a little bit as we go through the day, but these are the most important pivots that we start our day with. We combine it with our EMA clouds, and then we trade accordingly to that, right? So if you look at SMCI, always a watch list. Once it got over 292, it went to 300, right? And then 300 was another breakout. So this is what you have to have planned every day, right? AMD, NVDA. So we will discuss those names individually. So we'll discuss those names but there are a bunch of learning lessons to be learned today. How the option flow was so important. Option flow on coin. How was the coin trade panning out? What was the reasoning behind the coin trade? And then option flow on NVIDIA, and then option flow on Tesla. So how did we adjust? We watched the option flows, and how did we have a conviction in doing our trade? So we'll talk about that. So we'll talk about our Microsoft. A lot of AI news around Microsoft, how we traded that. NIO, we talk about why MELI was on my watch. Uber, why I was looking for a short first, but when it didn't give me a short, why was it a long? Boeing, how did we nail Boeing all day, right? And how did I lose in bros, right? So what was the plan with the bros? The check, the short in the check under 10 psychological level. We'll discuss that. There was also a big penny mover today, CDIO. We will go through that penny mover as well. So we'll discuss all those, and there were a lot of trades in the community, very active DM community, so as you see here, the poll we take by 10 a.m. 70% of the community was green, just 6% was red, and 23% community was flat, right? Most of those who were green were up early prepping with us. We provide all the tools, I do all the guidance, the education. So I was very proud of how we did today. And now we will go through play by play and discuss how we nailed it today. Let's start. So let's start with SPY QQQ. So other thing, those who follow my VIX teachings, they know that 14 was at a big level on VIX, right? So VIX faded all day and the market pushed all day. There was a slight bounce in VIX when market was dipping, but the overall you can see the 10-minute trend, EMA Ripster cloud trend was to the downside. So it was a weak trend, and whole day you can see those. You see how SPY traded 95% of ATR, QQQ traded 100% of its ATR by end of the day, and you can see these setups, right? And these setups, we were on this before it. Anyways, when the day started, I was talking about, I was on the voice, I was talking about these levels. 452 was my most important levels that I was talking about. I was on the live stream, my charts were on the live stream. Then I was talking about this QQQ downtrend level. And then I called this flag. After we break 452, that is fine, that's first pivot. Then we watch for 10 a.m. and there's a 10 a.m. pullback, but it held. What I always say, does the 10 a.m. pullbacks hold or does it give us a reversal? So you see here clearly 10 a.m. reversal held. So 10 a.m. reversal held and a flag breakout. And a flag breakout happened at 10:50. So that's what I said, flag at 512s, right? So you see after that it was all the flag breakout all day. And not only that, even at 1 o'clock when this was happening, I said another flag, short traps, HOD will be the key now, right? So then it was all about they were holding the trend. There was no reason. So you are long here, you take off here, you see a flag, you add into the position, you trade it, you take long off some, then you see another flag, you add into it because you are already profitable, right? And then you ride the trend as long as the trend hold. When ATR is almost 100%, that's when you know you need to start taking profits. So as you see, guys, this was all day guidance on SPY QQQ. That's why there's 70% people were green, because this is the guidance. This is what I want to show you. People don't want to see it because they're too blinded. You need to identify the patterns. Don't focus on any indicators, RSI, MACDs, not even on the EMA clouds. EMA clouds are for managing your trade. But you need to focus on what the price action is showing you. Anybody who was shorting, none of my students, none of my community members, my followers were shorting it, because that's not how you become a successful trader, going against the trend and getting squeezed, right? So you see there was a tight day, last few days were tight, and this day was boom, right? All day trend. That's when you make money. You know, SPY went from 450, 455, 100%, 150%, 200% calls. You trade anything, QQQ. So you trade all those things long. So you see, and when this happens, then we know how we play our large caps, right? So we'll talk about that. So let's go to the next one. So let's look at Microsoft trades, right? So Microsoft had this AI news, right? So Microsoft is, you all know the news that they were so Altman was fired by the board, and then the board was trying to bring him back. Then Microsoft CEO said, we are going to partner him, or we're going to move them to Microsoft, whatever. So anyways, so the AI news was kind of bullish. So basically the sell-off had to be absorbed, right? So then when we were down, start of the day, we were down on the EMA clouds. So how do we decide we want to long or not? Because then we wait, right? We wait and we trade, either we trade the amateur move. So amateur move, the risk was 370. That's what I was saying. So there was a small size. So I was on the voice. I said only a small size long. So just to get a small size long, and you long it small size. So you can long it small size for the amateur trade, right? So amateur trade, those who watch my webinars, they know what I'm talking about, amateur and the trend move. So we had this initial move, right? So you can look at 2 minutes if you want to trade it open. So you can scalp a small size. I wanted to see the push over 374 for a bigger move, and it did push, right? It pushed from 374 to 377. So there was a decent trade from 371.50 to 376, right? So almost $5 move was there, and good move on the options to trade it. But then it's pulled back. Then we go back to our 10 minutes. 10 a.m. pull. We always take profits into our 10 a.m. So that's our golden rule. So when it's pulling back on the 10 a.m. So sorry, that's the wrong one. So when it's pulling back at 10 a.m., you see that. So it's pulling back at 10 a.m. Me personally, I was, I closed my trade here, but the mistake I did not enter back. When you see this candle going back, going back over the clouds, and I already talked about how bullish the market was. So you can confidently long it again. You know your risk level is right here. This is your risk level, right? If you want to look at 1 hour chart, I mean, so that is your risk level. So right here, if you see this one, right, 1 hour candle low, and then you can long it using that 1 hour candle low and just get back in. So I personally was not I was not holding it. I didn't get back. So but anyways, it was a successful trade at open, logged most here, then I logged rest here. But I did guide the community when it reclaimed, you enter back again, right? And again, some people were trading on their own strategy, their own setup. They held because maybe they were so profitable they could hold, right? Usually what you do is you can have you lock half, rest of half you keep break even, right? If you enter there, if you held versus my original risk level 370, that was okay. You reduce the size, you add back. But you see how the breakout came and how Microsoft kept running back with the 512 EMA clouds all day back to 379. That's fine. You get stopped out, right? I was focused on other trades. Otherwise, I would have got back in right here. So anyways, so the point was a good trade. I just want to emphasize that sometimes it will fake you out. How to manage the fake out? You are already profitable. You already added in the morning and it already ran 377s. So you know that you already made some money on it, and even if it's a small size fake out, you're still profitable. Only problem is if you're trying to add this flag and you miss the morning move, then you're losing money here. Then you have to get out and wait, and then you get back in here. You can always get back in. There's no problem. If you imagine if you stopped out and then you lost on like another $6 worth of profit, and if you got back over the EMA clouds, and you could have used the same risk, you could have made it all back. So never shy away from getting back into a trade, guys. Let's go to the next one. So Bitcoin coin was not on my watch list initially when I started the day. It was not on a watch list. I did not put it on my watch list, but I saw because again, thanks to our community, right? Somebody mentioned Bitcoin is strong, and right away I looked at Bitcoin, and it was pushing higher, right? It was pushing higher. It was pushing higher this morning. Let's see. Yep, so it was strong this morning. That's why I was like, coin is an interesting pivot. And what was the other reason for me liking coin? Because look how many times did coin reject 100 previously. Once, twice, third time back over. You have clear risk versus 100. Clear risk versus 100. That's why I said versus 100 either side watch. If it broke down, we would have showed it. It held 100, we are long. So that's why I said scalp versus 100. Focus on your entry. If your entry is further, smaller the size. Remember my webinar about risk management and position sizing, right? So anyways, after that, we were long. We added more into the long, and then then calls started to come in. You can see clearly I'm talking about these calls, 105 calls coming in, and that's why we were already profitable from the morning, so we could hold, right? We could hold even for 3450 EMA clouds, or if you're trying to stop out, reduce your size, you get back in. So you can clearly see, right, a difference from Microsoft, where I talked about getting out. In the coin, I did not say that because I was like, keep eye on more call flow. It will help in the push, still holding the 104 once. 104 was the next breakout, but there was a seller. So there a seller was giving us a little problems, but it dipped and the wick, and then boom, the breakout, right? So you see the coin, even if you added 101, you took your first profits at 104, you held with 3450 EMA clouds, or you held your small size versus 100 or trailing stops, it went to 106, right? It was almost a $5 per share. And if you just follow those calls, so that's why we keep eyes on the calls. You keep eyes on the calls. And if you are saying, oh, how should I add? I didn't get an entry. You don't have to add your full size. Again, I'm not talking about, because I know some of the accounts are very tiny. For them, they can't successfully trade this just with one contract. It's because their risk is wide. they have to trade differently. But if you're scaling in, scaling out, you can always add smaller. If you're doing 10 contracts, just add 3 contracts. If you're profitable, add 3 more or take some off. So that's how you get in, right? So there's always a risk level. The point is to find your risk level. So as you see, very profitable, very good trade in with this coin trade in the open, Microsoft trade at the open. So they were one of the big winners this morning. All right, so still swinging some coin. So we'll see how that goes. So let's go to the next one. So let's look at a BABA idea. So when the market was strong, right? So I saw this setup on BABA. Let me see if I can show you guys here somewhere. So I saw this setup on BABA. So this setup on BABA intrigued me because it was a bullish reversal. What do I talk about? Trend lines. It was getting out of this downtrend line on 10-minute chart. Even if you make it on 1-hour chart, it was a trend line reversal. So it was a trend line reversal, and the risk was defined at 76.60 area. It's turning perfect A plus EMA cloud and trend line setup, right? And that's when I said that it's pushing, that you can long it. The target was 78.40, right? Your tighter stops could have been under EMA clouds, or could have been 77. Even if you risked 77 and you added at when I was talking about it 76.50, you risked 50 cents and you made more than $1, almost 2 reward to 1 risk, depending upon what was your entry. So that was a very easy, stress-free morning trade, guys. You can see the comments here: time spent, risk levels, long idea, and the target. So let's talk about the biggest play of the day was Boeing, right? So the biggest play of the day, Boeing, was, as I already provided in the level sheet, pre-market plan, everything was there, and this was my pivot right here at 212 for the breakout, and you could clearly see that I was idly watching for EMA clouds pullbacks. That's what I wanted to add on, but it broke out right away, and that's when I said it's a good long. Even the amateur trade gave us this one big push from 212s to 215.50s. That was the first trade, and when it pulled back, it made higher lows over the previous breakout. That was our trend move, amateur move, and the trend move. And that's when I said, so you already see I was locking on the first move, and then I said it's holding trend, hold your position, and then my targets were 215, then was 218, 220, and then we started taking our things up versus 218, right? And then I was all out, and I held some lottos there, but you can see the time-stamped guidance, right? Not after the fact, repeatable setup, A plus setup, EMA cloud leading, not trying to long a bearish stock, long a bullish stock with our system and making profits. Let's get to the next one. So let's look at one loser this morning, loser idea that I traded and I shared with the community. So bros was, it always does this to me, right? So I saw the move. Of course, it's amateur move, so my size was small. So I added over that pullback starter size, but it then started to wick on me. And I knew it's going to pull back to EMA clouds. I had no doubt about it, because when the difference between EMA, that's what I cover in detail in my webinars, I know there's this risk level here, right? So when I add up here close to 29s, and then it pulls back, breaks back from the the pre-market level or the opening price, it's not even holding the opening price. That's always a big problem, right? It's not holding the opening price. So it pulls back under opening price, and then I take a loss and then move out. I know that's the trend move. I could have traded trend move versus the EMA cloud, but I was out with my amateur move. I was doing much better in other trades. And as you see, my comments are always there, heavy, that it's not working, close for loss. So if I'm losing, I talk about losing. But one thing you note is, if we lose small. If we win big, like Boeing all day. All right, guys, let's go to the next one. So let's see, guys, what was our guidance on NVIDIA. So guys, NVIDIA was not it was not my personal big trade, but I was giving the guidance on NVIDIA this morning. It was all trade with the 510 calls, right? There was call flow, call flow, call flow, and then what happened? Then what happened? It was a bearish, no trade, but when it became bullish, there's a trade coming. Breaking over pre-market highs, there's a trade coming, right? And then 500 resistance, that's a normal rejection. 500 resistance, pull back to the EMA clouds. If are you adding here, you should understand that your risk can't be like 2-3 cents here. Your risk either goes to the previous low of the candles under the EMA clouds. If I see carefully, the only level I can see is this here, right, is my risk. And then it pulled back, and then comes the 500 psych breakout, guys. I always talk about 500 psychology breakout. 500 psychology breakout, and you can see the 510 calls. So important lesson here, guys. If it's bearish, no longer a trade here. When it becomes a bullish, becomes a high probability trade. If you're adding crazy size, stopping out here, that's your problem. You are doing it wrong, because you have to focus on your risk reward. You have to find where your risk is before you try to make crazy money, right? So imagine you added here, you stopped out here, still in trend, still over EMA clouds, because you're big size and the stock kept on running, right? So the calls were coming again, just like the coin flow, NVIDIA call flow. Even I tweeted about it, gave a lot of confidence to everybody. Let's go to the next one. So on Uber, my bias was bearish, right? But it's my golden rule. If I see the first candle push over EMA clouds on a gap down, I don't want to short. I was still watching that 450 candle. I personally saved myself, because I know once it's over the EMA clouds, it's already a B minus setup. B minus, that's it. It's a B minus setup. It's no longer a short for me. So 54 line was in sand. If I saw the rejection, I would have added, but it was holding it, right? So look at me what I said after 10 minutes. It's filled the gap, holding higher, no bearish bias. It's a B minus setup if you try to short it, right? And then I realized it's a 52-week breakout. There's definitely no bearishness there. Do not short, look for pullback longs. When did I say that? I said after 10 minutes after market open, and it went another 60-70 cents by end of the day, right? So you can clearly see the guidance on Uber. The problem with more traders are, if they think, oh, it's a short, and say, oh, RIP is bearish, we will short it, they blindly just short it, and they keep adding to short. Where RIP is sitting comfortably because it's not his setup, and you are getting squeezed because you think, oh, it's bearish, because you think the news is bearish, and you think, oh, RIP was bearish out in the pre-market. Does not matter. I do what the system tells me. So that's why you see my timestamp guidance there. So, but luckily nobody was short. Some few folks tried it and they left. So I think we were good. So we were good there today. So let's go to the next one. This is a void trade on Uber. Void trade. Well, CHJ was it was I love these kind of amateur moves at the open. So as soon as open, it was bearish. I wanted a good entry close to 10, but it did never give a bounce, and it was a short right at open versus 10. If you're gonna want to go see a 2 minute candle, again, this was a morning trade, amateur trade. So it opened at 950. The target was 9. It went close 906. So you easily scalped what, 40 cents, 45 cents on a $9 stock. That's good enough. And when they start curling, you just get away, because overall what? Because overall the market is bullish. In a bullish market. So this was amateur move, and then came the trend move. So just a side watch on CHGG. I wanted to discuss. So let's look at what was the plan on NIO. NIO plan was simple. The breakout was over 7.80, like I said here. Support was 760. So risk was 760. That was the plan. That was the plan in the pre-market 5 minutes before the market opened. So it had a good strength right at open, and it pushed to the 8 target. So I expected my 8 target, and it hit 8, and that was it. right? And then it's pulled back. Again, this was just an amateur trade, right? It's a small range stock. You move, you take a little bit, you move on, right? You don't add into the trend move at 10 a.m. Either you get the initial move at the open breakout for the amateur. Again, I keep saying, if you don't know that, watch my webinars. I teach these setups. I go spend 2 hours explaining. So you have, and those who watch my videos again and again, they know what I mean. So anyway, so this was an amateur move at the open. Let's go to the next one. So let's look at PANW. So let's look at PANW, guys. So as you guys, those who watch my previous videos, I've been trying, trading PANW for last few days. Every day it has been giving us good trades. So this morning I saw PANW pushing over 250, and I was like, this is going to be a good trade, right? And as soon as it broke out of yesterday's highs, what are my concepts? What are my repeatable systems? As soon as it broke out of yesterday's highs, I was like, that's versus 249, and that's what I was talking on the voice. And that's the beauty of it, right? I don't even have to tell people in my community. They know what I'm looking at. They know what the setup is, because everybody is become so self-confident. They know, those who stay in the community for some time, they know my teachings, right? What is a setup? Market is a bullish, so anyways, so it was a beautiful day 3 move breakout. Your risk is 250 when you start, 249 initial risk, then the risk becomes 250, and you add it and scale in and you ride, and usually it's for the lottos that you do. So that's a beautiful move there. So as you see, folks are trying to trade PANW, beautiful new HOD, beautiful, yeah, and somebody missed it. That's fine. We have so many trades. You only trade what you like. You don't have to trade everything, right? So let's go to the next. So there was another idea on the MELI which kind of really didn't work out like I would have liked it to, because the risk was 1465, right? You see that's where it's bouncing. So so that was the risk for MELI. Closer to the risk you buy, and the point was to take some lotos, just trade some lotos on MELI, but it's so illiquid, and then it's not good for small accounts. So didn't end up do anything with it, but the setup is still on watch for tomorrow if we break out. So I'm gonna set up some price alerts there for MELI. We'll see what it does. All right, guys, let's quickly look at Tesla. In the morning, there was no business of trading Tesla. That's what I told everybody. You can see this chart. Everything is bullish. This chart does not tell you to long it, right? Of course, there's a support at 231. I gave the pre-market levels. There was a support at that, but that does not mean that you. I don't like this B minus bounce setups like these, right? Because there was much better trades. We were making money on Boeing, COIN. So that's why I said no need to long. But at the end of the day, right, even though there was a lot of 240 calls coming in, so that is the difference. The calls were coming in other stocks, but they were bullish. The calls are bullish, the technicals are bullish. That's what you like, right? But I was, I mean it's a B minus bounce. The 231 was the level that I gave. If we look at the levels, you can clearly see what was the level I gave, right? So 231 right here, exactly, right? So those levels are not really hard to find, but my point is, so it bounced from that level, the level I gave with a B minus bounce. I was not interested in that, but at the end of the day, so that's where it became real interesting. You can see, so I said Tesla, where it goes, Tesla finally bullish. So it's finally turning bullish, right? It turns the first bullish here where it breaks this kind of a flag. Then it gets over downtrend line. And then it's a nice push trade end of the day from, 234.60s to 236.60s. $2 move, good scalp, And if it closed over 237, that was a good to hold swing. That's what I told people. So it was just a scalp for me. But as it's closed on a 236, so there's no reason to hold it. All right, let's check next one. I just want to talk about this penny stock. It was on our watch list, as you guys see. It was an A+ setup. I will discuss more when I do my webinar on the on the low float stocks, or I do, I will talk about maybe one of my other videos, But you can go to my website and you can study my teachings on the low floats, right? It was a perfect setup from one psych and 125 big level, and then all day it was just breaking flag and holding trend. And there was a great guidance by William. If you see here, William was talking about CDIO, our low float expert. All he high watch and all that. Even I was mentioning CDIO since the morning, but I was too busy in the large caps. But for the small caps as well, I have been talking about the CDIO since morning, that how good it is. So my point is, there's trade everywhere. There's A plus setup in low floats, you trade low floats. There A plus setup in large caps, you trade large caps. So CDI was strong. I could see the strength. This was the pre-market high breakout. Then there was a flag. Then the previous support resistance becomes a new support, right? So beautiful, all day trade on CDIO. Let's go to the next one. So guys, SMCI, it was simple, right? The levels I gave in the pre-market talking about SMCI. SMCI we trade every day, right? So I will side if it breaks 300, if it stays under 300, then you can take profits. But it closed over 300, right? So my pre-market pivot on SMCI that I gave was, let's see what it was. Here it go. Come on. Okay, you see that? So I had a level of SMCI 292. So that was my pivot. And that's how it broke that pivot. Once it broke that 292 pivot, and then it just kept going over yesterday's highs. You just have to find your risk level and trade it. And then there was another breakout over 300 psych level. So very strong SMCI. This is a beautiful breakout setup, setting up for tomorrow. I really like it. Tomorrow on a watch as well. So maybe it has room to 315 if it holds 300. So fine, guys, this was all today. As you see, a lot of plays. I focused on few plays and locked it. Whole community was green. We are running special promo on for the Thanksgiving holiday weekend, 50% off. The link is up there, and you can join whenever you want. Come for community trading ideas and growth. Don't come for alerts. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye bye.